you say is the main goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know. Do you know what NYU is doing? About what? About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
I wish I was more educated.
I'm not either.
Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Content creators for the Iraqi Dinar are pretty much like that female. They're out there cheering for something to happen, and they have no idea what the subject's about at all. When you start talking about currencies free floating and all the other fun-loving stuff, they're like, yeah, we want the free float. Yeah, why? Yeah, that's what happens. Most everything that has to do with the Iraqi Dinar, if you ask them details about it, they can't answer. And so what ends up happening is when people go, hey, Pimpy, let me ask you a question. Okay, ask. And I go, okay, and why? They're like, I just heard so-and-so say something about it. Yeah, see, that's the problem, you guys. You guys got to be careful. That's like when everybody's like, oh, yeah, we want the deletion of the zeros. I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And everybody's like, yeah, we want the LOP. Yeah, you're all cheering it on. I was like, no, don't cheer it on. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for us as investors. And I know they're out there still being stubborn, swearing up and down that it's off the exchange rate, but it's not. The zeros come off the currency. So let me ask you this. When it comes to the deletion of the zeros, have any of them, any single one of them, proof to you, shown you any kind of proof that the redenomination or lopping or the deletion of the zeros is only changing the exchange rate and not the currency? Has any of them shown you proof about that? No, I know they haven't, because they don't have it, because they're wrong and they know I'm right. So that's the problem. I'm happy that a lot of you guys are starting to realize some of these things and asking good questions. Somebody sent me a clip of Melanie. She was telling everybody, look, it's off the exchange. And she gave this example in which she had the numbers backwards. I was like, oh, good Lord, God, help us. You know, if she's talking to God, God should have said, hey, you got the numbers backwards. Something. God, throw her a bone. Do something. Help the girl out, would you? So a lot of these people are like that girl in the beginning. All these people went down to protest because they were asked to go down there. As soon as you put a microphone under their mouth and go, why are you protesting? They have no idea why. No clue whatsoever. So anyways, let's go over this. The official rate, the parallel rate, and the Iraqi Dinar free floating. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Miles Franklin. The link will be down below in the description. When you make your purchase, make sure you use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they'll take care of you. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us over here at this phone number or over here at this particular email. For all orders over $10,000, reach out by email and we'll make sure that you get a great deal. So come on over to Miles Franklin and add to your precious metal inventory. Okay, today in the news, this article came out, and this alone is worth talking about. His finance advisor, the dollar exchange rate in the parallel market is gradually approaching the official one. So if the Iraqi Dinar were to go free floating, that means that the rate that it will adopt is going to be the one that we see on the parallel market. Pretty much you're surrendering fixed exchange rate for the one that's on the parallel market. Since today, the advisor, the Prime Minister for Financial Affairs, Saleh, explained the dangers of the exchange rate fluctuations in the event that the demands for floating the dinar are met, while confirming that the dollar exchange rate in the parallel market is gradually approaching the official one. So is the Iraqi Dinar meeting the demands? So what are these demands? To transition the Iraqi Dinar to a floating exchange rate system, several key demands and conditions would need to be met. Economic stability. One of the primary requirements for floating a currency like the Iraqi Dinar is achieving a certain level of economic stability. This stability includes factors such as low inflation rates, manageable levels of public debt, stable economic growth, and a well-functioning financial system. While Iraq's economy, I wouldn't say is stable, and people are like, yes it is. No, it's not. They rely way too much on oil revenues to fund their budgets, and every time oil prices drop below the set rate inside their budget, then they end up with a deficit. And this has happened many times. It happened in the 90s, it happened in the early 2000s, and it happened in 2019 going into 2020. When oil prices fell so low, it dang near bankrupted Iraq. That's not a stable economy. Now, they are working on it. I agree with everybody. They are absolutely working on it. Al-Sudani has done a great job. But we're talking about right now. Right now. So you got people out there going, yeah, they're going to be stable. Really, how's it stable? Market confidence. Floating the currency requires market confidence in the economy and the government's ability to manage monetary policies effectively. Investors and traders need to trust that the central bank will make sound decisions to maintain the value of the currency in a floating exchange rate system. I would say that Al-Alaq has been working closely with Al-Sudani to make sure that the reforms are taking place, in addition to working with the United States on making sure that their banking system is getting set up properly and all the right softwares and tools are there for them to monitor this. But when you go out right now and talk to people about the Iraqi Dinar, they always say, oh, it's a scam, it's a worthless piece of paper. And this will have an indirect reflection on the economy. Flexible monetary policy. A floating exchange rate regime necessitates a flexible monetary policy framework. The central bank should have the independence and capacity to adjust interest rates, intervene in foreign exchange markets where necessary, and respond to economic shocks promptly. While the CBI is supposed to be independent of the Iraqi government, every time the Iraqi government wants to put pressure on the Iraq Central Bank, they pull them in for a meeting and then pound them with tons of questions. If they get unhappy, they just remove the governor and replace him with another one. So I wouldn't quite say they're 100% independent, but they try to give the appearance that they are. And nobody can doubt me on that every time they remove them and replace them. That's not independent. Trade balance. A country looking to float its currency needs to have relatively balanced trade position. Large trade deficit or surplus can put pressure on the currency's value in a floating system, requiring interventions by the central bank to stabilize the exchange rate. Well, luckily for Iraq, they have a pretty large surplus. Their major export is oil products. So, of course, they export a lot more than they import. But as they continue to work on infrastructure, you might see that change just slightly. But they have a large surplus. Foreign exchange reserves. Sufficient foreign exchange reserves are crucial for managing a floating currency. Reserves act as a buffer against speculative attacks on the currency and help maintain stability in times of market volatility. Well, we know they got over $100 billion in reserves so far, so they do have sufficient foreign exchange reserves. Legal framework. Establishing a legal framework that governs foreign exchange markets, capital flows, and monetary policies is essential for transitioning to a floating exchange rate regime. Clear regulations and transparency promote market efficiency and investors' confidence. Well, one of the issues that they've always had, and that's changing little by little, is their lack of transparency. There are years that went by where Iraq refused to report on a lot of economic data that was needed for people to truly analyze Iraq. Transparency is a biggie. This is slowly but surely changing. Gradual transition. Moving from a fixed exchange rate to a floating one is often done gradually to minimize disruptions in the economy and allow time for the market participants to adjust their strategies accordingly. You got people all out there in the dinar community going, yeah, we want this now. Wow, hurry up, hurry up. They got plenty of oil. Yeah, that'll do it. Hurry up. Yeah, we want that to be free floating. That'll do it. Yeah. All these things, they want everything done right now. This is a gradual situation. And I know people go, man, it's been going on for 20 years. No, actually, it hasn't. Sure, the Iraqi dinar lost its value over 20 years ago. But all these changes that are happening, reform, all these positive steps, just recently started happening a couple years ago. So this is actually fairly new. Just understand this. The lack of free floating means that the value of the Iraqi dinar is more stable. See what I'm saying? More stable. But also is less responsive to economic conditions compared to currencies that float freely. Floating the Iraqi dinar would have significant impact on its value and overall economy of Iraq. If the Central Bank of Iraq were to allow the IQD to flow freely, its value would be determined by market forces such as supply and demand. This means that the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar against other currencies like the US dollar would fluctuate based on economic conditions and investor sentiment. One potential benefit of floating the Iraqi dinar is that it could lead to a more efficient allocation of resources within the economy. A floating currency allows for automatic adjustment in response to changing economic conditions, which can help maintain competitiveness in international trade. It can also act as a shock absorbent, helping to stabilize the economy in times of external shocks or fluctuations in oil prices, which heavily impact Iraq's economy due to its reliance on oil exports. See, this is why they need other things than just oil. Because if oil prices go down, no problem. They have other things holding up the ship. However, there are risks associated with floating a currency like the Iraqi dinar. Exchange rate volatility could increase, making it harder for businesses and individuals to plan for the future. Sudden fluctuations in the value of the Iraqi dinar could also lead to inflation or deflation, impacting consumers' purchasing power and overall economic stability. Additionally, if not managed properly, a free-floating dinar could expose Iraq to speculative attacks and currency crises. That's why everything they do, they got to take their time. And it's funny to listen to content creators. They just need to do this now. No, they don't. If they are not careful about what they do, it can knock them all the way back to square one. Then we have to wait for all this stuff to happen again. Slay said to the official agency, followed by the news, calls for floating the dinar to end the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel market rate may be possible if an economy in which the free market alone influences the movement of the balance of payments, and not in an economy in which the rentier government sector is dominant and generates currency reserves. Now people keep asking about this, a rentier state, or rentier government. Characteristics of rentier state. A rentier state is characterized by deriving a significant portion of its national revenues typically paid by foreign entities. In such states, only a small fraction of the population is directly involved in wealth creation, leading to limited development of modern social organizations associated with the productive activities. The work-reward relation is disrupted, with wealth being more accidental or situational rather than results of organized production process. We see that politicians are all rich and the other people are poor. That's because all of their wealth is generated from oil. That's it. So challenges that are faced. Rentier states face challenges related to over-reliance on external revenues, which can hinder domestic economic diversification and innovation. The lack of taxation on citizens due to abundant external revenues may lead to complacency and reduce incentives for economic growth. Additionally, the vulnerability of a rentier economies to fluctuations in global commodities prices poses risk to long-term sustainability and reliance. We know about this. They just rely on oil too much. Foreign currencies as a monetary authority alone is the main source of supply of foreign currencies that meets the desired demand for foreign exchange in the monetary market. To provide stability in the market and achieve a desired and homogeneous exchange rate through the interventionist role played by the monetary policy. He added, claims for flotation means in all cases adopting the prevailing exchange rate in the parallel market to achieve the goal of stability and balance in the official exchange rate itself at a new point reached by the market at the end of the supposed flotation policy and returning to stability again. They would be adopting the prevailing exchange rate in the parallel market, and that is lower than the current fixed one. Also, the flotation scenario means in all cases the withdrawal of the authority, cash from being an essential central supply of foreign currency, to be replaced by new forces supplying foreign currency from free markets, which only have a weak, limited supply of foreign exchanges, and at the same time they carry an uncontrolled package of inflation, expectation, and are called in economic literature the forces generating expectation inflationary. He continued, the hypothetical new supply forces for foreign exchange adopted by the exchange market in the scenario will mean the dominance of supply forces from speculators with very limited quantities of foreign exchange available for supply in the parallel market, matched by an open demand for foreign currency on the part of the market that undoubtedly exceeds the limited parallel supply of foreign exchange, perhaps by more than 10 times at least in our estimation. And such a policy of floating to achieve homogeneous equilibrium exchange rate would be an open and perhaps unruly situation, as long as the central government supply of foreign currency would be absent from the market, and we would not then obtain any equilibrium point in the exchange rate, an exchange rate that is sought to float except with the widespread deterioration of the exchange rate, as long as it is controlled by the forces that generate inflationary expectation. as we noted in a highly unilateral rentier economy, and it is an exchange rate whose mechanisms will move in the market that is incomplete of terms of production in its compensation for the required supply of goods and services. Soleil warns, then no one knows how much the new exchange rate resulting from the flotation will be, which will undoubtedly be accompanied by a prior wave of inflationary expectation, which is a dangerous wave whose direction are difficult to control, which may force monetary policies according to the floating scenario by intervening with foreign reserves. It is an unjustified extravagance in foreign exchange to impose a state of stability in the general level of price again, just to adopt it when the exchange rates reach low rates and no one knows how much they will reach. So the way things are set up currently, his concern is that the Iraqi dinar's exchange rate value will drop. It will be worse than it is. So he does point out this: the difference in the two prices currently, in which the parallel market is gradually approaching the official market, did not come about due to short supply of foreign exchange at the monetary authority, but rather came about due to sudden external factors imposed by the compliance platform and administrative audit restrictions on external transfer movements, which is a matter related to the deficit of the authority's reserves. Cash is about bringing the two prices closer in light of very high level of foreign reserves. The commercial efficiency of these reserves is the highest in Iraq's financial history, and they are covered in foreign currency that touches more than 16 months of imports compared to the global standard of 3 months. So, what's going to happen to the Iraqi dinar once it reaches an acceptable rate by foreign currency holders, such as us? Well, then you're going to flood the market with Iraqi dinars, aren't you? Yes, you will. If it gets anywhere near a 25 cent per dinar, 50 cent, $1, anywhere near there, people are going to start cashing Iraqi dinar in right away. And you're going to flood the market because now there's going to be more dinars out there in the market flooding them, causing the value of the Iraqi dinar to drop. So in my opinion, Iraq is not currently ready to have a floating IQD. As of now, the exchange rate is fixed at around 1,310 dinars per dollar. This means that the value of the Iraqi dinar is not determined by market forces, but rather by the central bank policies. For Iraq to transition to a floating exchange rate system for the Iraqi dinar, it would require significant economic reforms, stability, and confidence in the currency. All these things are happening now, but they're not there yet. A move to a floating IQD would involve allowing market forces to determine its value based on supply and demand dynamics. This transition would need careful planning and implementation to ensure stability in its currency values and prevent excessive volatility. This is what I'm talking about, careful planning. Everybody's like, man, how come it ain't happening today? Man, I've been waiting 10, 20 years. It's not about you. It's about Iraq. It's about Iraq's people. Given Iraq's current economic challenges, including political instability, and we know that's true because they keep trying to figure out a way to remove al-Sudani, security concerns, while they keep having these fools out there in these militia groups bombing American troops, and reliance on oil exports priced in US dollars, transitioning to a floating IQD may not be feasible or advisable at this time. It would require substantial reforms in various sectors of the economy to create the necessary conditions for a successful transition to a floating exchange regime. Once Iraq has positioned himself and all these steps have been made, there's political stability and you have the coordinating framework not removing people out of the central bank of Iraq because they don't like what they're doing or trying to get rid of their prime minister because he's getting more popular than them, stupid crap like that. If they could get that stable, we already know that there's tons of reforms, especially in the banking sector. They're getting there, but they're not 100% there yet. As far as confidence in the currency, nobody has confidence in it. Besides those who are investing in it, it's not that they have confidence in Iraqi dinar, they're hoping. There's a big difference. But that's why you hear people like Kyle saying that thing's worthless, man. It's not going to do anything because there's years and years of history shows you that Iraq constantly screws up and ends up back on square one. So you can't blame people for being negative. In my opinion, Iraq has taken all the proper steps necessary to get there, but they're not there yet. Give it time. And just because you got people out there going, yeah, they should go to a floating currency, that's because they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Don't be one of them people. Anyways, that's it for now. I look forward to your comments, and I'll catch you later. I'm out.